Alright, looks like it's another edition of Talk Physics. Where I talk about physics and yeah, nobody else does.
Looks like it's another edition of Talk Physics.
Whoa, wrong one.
Where I talk about physics and
yeah, there we go. Okay. Technical issue. So anyway, the Bill Gates guy from Rational Science, which isn't entirely rational. Anyway, they posted a new video and it was not so good. Mostly just about the politics of science, more than the science of science. But this video was also posted on gravitational pull, and it's sort of a good background for highlighting this distinction between and it's kind of fundamental. It's like you either believe in ether or you don't. Well, you either believe push or you believe pull, I think. And there doesn't seem to be too many people who do the push thing, which I think is quite weird, strange and bizarre, just because it is so. It seems kind of fits in my brain very well that pull is the more elemental function, and that poles are always complex functions. So, he's made these same. So anyway, this is a new version of his argument where he has included the idea of push from an external pressure, and he still hasn't done it quite right. But the fact is that in his own video, it's almost a pretty good argument for my side, which I thought was pretty funny. Even trying, him trying not to make it believable, he made it more believable than his pull theory. So anyway, we'll play it, and then I'll just get into those details, I suppose. I don't know if there's much. Yeah, no point in doing the details twice. So it's very nice. He does these little animations where he, voiceover. Corny, but gotta give him credit. It's more effort than I can go to, and he's able to get some, do some cheap graphics and animations. Better, like I said, better than anything I've done.
Hello there. Yes, you. Tell me, how would you physically drag a donkey in your direction? Well,
how would you physically drag? So that's almost a word implying pulling, just because dragging is usually dragging behind, dragging. You're usually pulling something. So it's sort of a prejudice to start off.
There are only a handful of physical mechanisms we can imagine.
No, there's really only two. It really is just push or pull, and in my opinion, there's only one because all the pulls are just an inverted push.
Humor me. How would you do it? What? Throwing rocks at it.
So this was his original way of describing any particle mechanism, that all particle mechanisms would have to be some sort of particle that you throw in one direction and somehow you throw force at something and it comes towards you, which obviously it wouldn't be a reasonable theory. So yeah, in that sense, okay argument, but clearly that's not the argument for everything that's formed in the universe. I mean, this sort of goes to unification in a way, because you can sort of understand that whatever way it goes, push or pull, it starts with atoms, and so it's, everything in the universe is part of this mechanism of being surrounded by or being internally empowered by some mechanism of either attraction or external, pressure. So sound effects.
I'm not sure that's going to work very well. Try something a little more imaginable.
Imaginable. Yeah, interesting word. remove the air between us. So that's a kind of a weird way to say it, right?
Huh? Remove the air and other matter between the donkey and you? Oh, I see.
All right, so this isn't exactly the right way to describe a pressure system, right? Because pressure, you don't have to remove anything. If you just have those little bits hitting stuff in from all directions, that is, they're moving randomly, you don't have to erase any between the donkey and the person. They will be pushed together just by being in proximity to each other in the field of little bits hitting. And you can sort of understand that it's sort of like the opposite of a light bulb, in that some of the little bits will never hit you, but the ones that do are kind of going in a straight line right for you when they hit you. And if you're surrounded by them, they'll hit you from all directions. But clearly, if you're next to something else that's getting hit, the ones that would have hit you but are going to hit that other person instead, they were heading right for you, but now that other person's in the way, right? I'm sitting here, there's stuff that's coming right for me. So stuff's hitting me from all sides. And I'm being pushed every which way, but equally in all directions. And all of a sudden, something else shows up and it starts blocking the ones that were coming this way. Now I'm going to get hit by more stuff behind me than in front of me, and I'm going to move towards that object. And the same thing is going to happen to that other object. So you don't have to erase it. And this is so he's creating a false bit of somehow you have to do something magical and take out a whole bunch of stuff. You don't have to remove anything. So that's just a misrepresentation of the truth. The truth is the little bits moving will create an external pressure, external to the two objects, and push them together. And that really well explains the compression of atoms. It explains the compression of molecules. It explains the compression of humans, the air pressure, the Earth's gravity. It explains everything. It can account for every single thing we recognize as energy or movement. This cause is a perfectly good explanation.
Supposing that the pressure of matter on the outside pushes you two together. Okay, I suppose that'll work a little better than throwing rocks at the donkey.
So again, he's misrepresented it in the sense you don't have to move anything. The pressure alone, just having two things in the field, will automatically take care of the moving into each other. And it explains where the energy comes from. You don't have any doubts about why the two things move into each other. It's because there's more pressure, because they're blocking pressure against each other. And so you don't have to account for where's the energy come from to move the donkey, or where's the energy come to pull on a rope, for example. You don't have to explain where that energy comes from.
Any other idea? What's that? Put both of you in a bowl so that you slide towards each other? Oh, okay. I guess that'll work better than a track.
So again, a nice little drawing, and then they do use this bent fabric idea, but clearly, real physics. It's supposed to be real physics, but it's real like newsreel. Real physics wouldn't really argue that the bowl thing happens. What happens is a convergence because it's in 3 dimensions. So you have to come up with some other vacuum cleaner analogy or some other way to illustrate this idea that somehow space is pulling in. But there really isn't any. Bowls really aren't going to work in 3 dimensions.
Attacking the donkey by throwing rocks at it. What if you used a more, say, down-to-earth method?
All right, now down to earth, maybe like He-Man or lumberjack method, but it's not really elemental or physics in the sense you're not getting to some kind of simplest way. So this isn't going to be a simple mechanism.
How about if you simply tie a rope around the donkey's neck?
Right. So tying a rope is already something I don't think the universe knows how to tie knots. And then you got the secondary problem, which I'll get to momentarily.
Tug on it. Now, isn't that the simplest?
Yes, and strangle him. Yeah, so, yeah, a little humor. Haha.
way to drag the donkey towards you?
All right, so now look at that image, right? So you can sort of get the idea that this is sort of like just as bad as the bent space analogy, in the sense that something very energetic is happening here when they're doing this pull thing. Something has to pull. Something has to make the pressure, make the force. And there's no evidence that the Earth gets lighter because of gravity, or the sun. There's no calories consumed to do all that pulling. So that part doesn't make any sense. Where's the energy come from? And the same could be argued for magnetism and for the nuclear forces and for everything, because there's no accounting for where the energy came from. Because it has to come, if you're going to say it's a pull force, then the energy has to come from inside something. You can't blame the external universe. Where with the push model, it's kind of obvious. You can just say the universe already has all these little fast moving bits in it, and the fast moving bits are everywhere, and they're pushing everything together.
Why make the mechanism?
And it explains magnetism also in the sense that attraction would be removing the pressure on the inside so that two things would move towards each other. And if you want them to repel, you just increase the pressure between the two objects. And magnetism can do that based on polarization. And I've explained all that before. But it's an easy trick to allow for there to be increases in pressure. So I'll explain the trick. It's a simple idea. If you have a ping pong ball bouncing between two ping pong paddles, you can increase the pressure, that is the number of impacts, the amount of energy, just by moving the two paddles together. You factually increase the energy of the system just by moving them together, because there's more impacts on both surfaces, and the impacts are energy. And if you add another ping pong ball, clearly more pressure. So it's really easy to create a system where you're managing the pressure.
Is it more complicated than you have to?
So again, nothing more complicated. When there's two complicated events there, there's the attaching something to the donkey, difficult, and there's the energy of pulling. Neither one is accounted for. There's no evidence of either one in the physics record. So not a very viable explanation, in my opinion, when the push thing, perfectly consistent with what we see, and we have some evidence that this push stuff exists in this form of the cosmic background radiation, a radiation coming from all directions equally. If you just made more of it, it would perfectly explain atoms being compressed and people being compressed and planets being compressed and solar systems being compressed and everything being compressed. And the compression is potential energy. So it also explains nuclear bombs, because it explains that everything's under pressure, has been pressurized, and that locked in that circumstances, the capacity to break that pressurization, to I don't know how to exactly say how. It's a subtle argument about how you can trap pressure, but it's like even cylinders have certain shapes. When you're going to compress gas inside of them or something, certain shapes can hold more pressure than other shapes. So in a sense, atoms are locked with their pressure intact, and you can basically just break the lock of that pressure. And the pressure would be in the form of charge, attraction, between electrons and protons.
Well, the reason I ask is that gravity is an invisible force that produces attraction. For instance,
so again, it doesn't produce attraction, except that you said it's attraction. But I would argue the evidence is that no things got attracted. They're being pushed into each other. So if I just push, a man into a woman, and is that attraction? If they were pushed into each other, it's kind of like saying cars have accidents because they were attracted to each other. Nah, not really.
Since the Earth has outward centrifugal motion when it rotates around the sun.
Yeah, well, that outward centrifugal motion doesn't really mean anything because it's really just the velocity of the Earth trying to go in a straight line. And then it has to keep changing that vector of that velocity. So the accelerating moments keep changing the vector of the velocity, but it's there's no strings tied to it.
We use the word gravity to refer to the invisible mechanism that keeps the Earth from flying out of the solar system.
Yes, well, I would argue flying out of the system, keeping it from flying out of the system isn't really, isn't really what's happening. What it's being pushed into is the sun, and so again, it's just how you're looking at it. It's quite obvious that it would stay in an orbit if it's constantly more pressure pushing it. Again, if the sun is shielding it from pressure, there's a constant attractive force towards the sun. The Earth has a desire to go this way. It's being pushed a little bit this way, and so it just keeps going around because of that little extra push, because of the lack of pressure on the other side. It's like there's not an extra push. There's an absence of push from one side.
So which mechanism would you choose to simulate gravity and to explain how the sun tugs on the Earth?
Yes, I would choose the external pressure because it explains everything, and it also explains where the energy comes from. It's elementally more fundamental as an explanation push. It's simpler, so it passes Occam's razor. It accounts for all the phenomenon, and it unifies physics, and it explains where the energy comes from.
Would you do it by having the sun throw rocks at the Earth? Would you remove the matter between the sun and the Earth?
So again, remove it. I don't have to remove anything. So that's a incorrect. So Bill, you're being unfair to the argument. That's an incorrect way to describe it. All you have to do is think of it as light, and all you're doing is creating shadows. And so where the shadow is, there's less pressure. So you don't have to remove anything. You just allow all the junk to exist, and the only argument is that all travels in straight lines, force. So the force can't go around the sun and then hit the Earth over here. It's all straight line force. So any of the stuff going this way just doesn't get to the Earth anymore, and vice versa. But you don't remove anything. No added energy required. Just the little rays all from all directions. Just like the cosmic background radiation, just more of it in a form we can't detect except this way. So it's cosmic background radiation without a frequency. And there's the evidence that it exists right there. It's a lot of it.
That the matter on the outside pushes the Earth towards the sun? Would you convert space into a bowl so that the Earth slides or rolls around the walls of the bowl like the little ball on a roulette?
Right, yes. No, I wouldn't create a fake medium of ropes or balls or anything else. But again, this is sort of illustrates that his theory that every atom is tied to every atom is even more complex a grid work than this bowl analogy.
Or would you have the sun twirl the Earth around itself by the invisible threads that interconnect the respective atoms?
Invisible threads. Again, it's just that the photons travel down. Yeah, come on.
Food for thought.
Not really. So throwing the rocks doesn't work right. Pressure works. Bowls doesn't work, and ropes doesn't work. So seems obvious. Pressure wins. Let it go a little longer. Yeah, so this part is probably a little longer than it needs to be. Yeah. Brought to you by yeah, very nice. Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so that's about all I wanted to accomplish in this video. So we'll see if there's any chatters and I mean, to me, it's, you know, this is, yeah, I'm just saying, it just seems a logical argument that this is the better foundation for physics to work from. Push is so much more logical than pulls. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. How does the pressure lessen between the objects? Well, I've already explained that, but I'll do it one more time. So it's like a light bulb, frankly. If I was shining light from all directions, so you have to just think of it's coming from all directions. And then I have two objects, this and my fist, right? You can sort of understand that any of the light going this way hits this object and it won't hit this object. So this object will cast a shadow on this object. And completely the opposite going this way. This object will block all the light going this way and cast a shadow on this object. So there's less light hitting this here and less light hitting this here, which means the external pressure will push them right into each other. It's that simple. Now, the pressure really isn't pushing them. In theory, like when photons are absorbed by your body or anything else, the energy is being absorbed by the object. It's not creating a shadow. It's essentially accelerating towards the other body, and in the process of accelerating, it absorbs the thing. So when an asteroid hits the Earth, let's say, the Earth absorbs that energy and does move. And that's sort of what's happening. But same difference. Say you have a ball in a cylinder and add pressure. So you have to understand the pressure isn't water, the pressure isn't ether, the pressure is rays of force, rays. The little bits have to be kinetic. They can be like BBs or something else, something that moves in straight lines. That if it hits something, it moves in straight lines. Cue balls, whatever you want to make it. Has to be something that has a velocity that's constant and it moves in straight lines, like photons. It's rays of force. So there's no adding pressure. You have to add pressure in a direction. So you can't, if you want to add pressure, you have to add pressure to the whole system or something like that. You can't just say the words add pressure because it's directional pressure. You can't add to the cosmic background radiation, let's say, unless you add from every single direction in the universe. Add pressure, the two balls won't stick together. So again, they will if you obey the rules. So if you add the pressure from the outside, technically, from some direction out here, it's not going to matter because it's still added pressure and it's still going to be able to cast some shadow on each other. But the point is it's like I said, it's like light. It's a ray force. It's moving in straight lines. Straight lines. So it doesn't go around objects. It's a straight line force. Like the cosmic background radiation. Again, the cosmic background radiation, when the moon and the Earth are lined up, and the fact is the Earth absorbs the cosmic background radiation, and the moon won't feel any on the surface that's lit up. It doesn't see as much cosmic background radiation from that direction because the Earth absorbs some of it. That's simple. All right, two balls won't stick together. Is it outside potential, just keep building? Is it the outside potential, just keep building? That's not a very useful sentence. I don't know what two means. Two. I don't know. And add pressure to TWO, and he spelled it wrong again. I don't know. Okay. You're supposed to correct the spelling, not keep the spelling wrong. I think, oh, you're supposed to have two in the other place. Yeah, you have the wrong two there, and then you have the wrong two over there. So you're supposed to have two objects, and then you're supposed to have just TO, ball. Oh, no, you're supposed to have two and then balls. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to have, balls. Anyway. So no, you're wrong in your assumptions. The way you've narrowed the subject. And again, I can only point to you to cosmic background radiation. It's a straight line force radiation. It doesn't go around objects, doesn't do any of that crap. So again, it creates shadows, and shadows are low pressure. So if how would you, if I told you to increase the cosmic background radiation pressure, you kind of know you can't just shoot it from one direction because, oh yeah, that's going to be in one direction. It would be like a X-ray beam or something. So of course I'll only be pushing things in that one direction. So if I was going to increase the pressure, I'd have to increase the pressure from every single direction, from every single point in the universe. So clearly the pressure is maintained, and that's something that has to be explained. But I don't think it has to be explained any more than, like I said, the existence of the cosmic background radiation already is something that exists. So all I'm saying is there's parts of it that we can't test except doing gravity. So gravity is just the same thing as cosmic background radiation. It's just not at a frequency, so you can't detect it. You can't detect it with a radio transmitter or receiver. You have to detect it by watching it move stuff. So I would speculate that the universe has a mechanism to push to contain the pressure, to create the cosmic background radiation. So I'd argue the universe probably is spherical, and that what happens is all the photons that are heading out of our universe reflect off a membrane of some kind and come back as non-frequency photons, fragments of photons, gravity. So visible light or X-rays or some other kind of electromagnetic radiation heads out of the universe, and it's reflected back as gravity. Gravity bits. Gravity rays. Gotta be very careful the way you use words. Unfortunately, because everybody thinks of gravity as a negative, pulling force, and so as soon as you turn into an external force, you have to explain how there's certain rules to how that force works in terms of its straight lines. All right. So no other conversation. I'll give you a couple of minutes, and that'll be it. It is disappointing how few people are available. I mean, I have been doing these rooms pretty routinely, you know, at this hour. So you'd think there'd be some people ready, but not, sadly. Let's see, how many people are in here? 15. Yeah, that's enough to have somebody to say something, but apparently not enough. I just think it's a pretty solid argument, that's all. It's just, I don't see how somebody really defends using push ideology, I mean, a pull ideology, when push is such a simpler mechanism, and it doesn't have to be modified. You don't have to tie it to something. You don't have to do any energy pulling things. You don't have to do anything. The push takes care of it all, does it all. Yeah. All right, let's see if there's any other crap in the subscriptions, and call it a day. Ooh, some kind of crap. May the special spectrum force be with you. Oh, it's Tyler. InfoWars stuff. Jeez, a lot of bad videos here. Yeah, so the Sean Carroll thing has got something hereditary, DNA, and editing genes and shit. And that's not really physics, so won't bother with that crap. And I don't think there's been any new comments, so I think we're done on any of the videos. It just really is dismal. Well, okay then. So gravitons, yeah, I just don't want to use that word just because physics has a whole different, they've used the word before me and they're just making a mess of it. So I don't really want to use that word. So the gravitons could make up what is thought to be dark matter. No, it's idiotic. I mean, it's idiotic. You can't, I don't know what to say to that. I really don't. I mean, how would light that you can't see, right? There's lots of light you can't see. Infrared, ultraviolet. So you would say something like that. You'd say something like, so ultraviolet light could be made into dark matter. Yeah, why would you say that? I mean, it still wouldn't make any sense. I mean, dark matter doesn't make any sense. Matter that doesn't have any of the properties of matter, except that it blocks gravity. So you can't reflect light off of it, but somehow it absorbs gravity. It makes gravity. So that doesn't make any sense, does it? Does it really make sense that you could make some sort of matter that would be sensitive to gravity and yet wouldn't be sensitive to light? That doesn't make any sense to me. So no, you've once again missed the target. All right, thank you for commenting. Anyways, thank you for asking a question. Not a very good question, but he's like, there's just this real problem. I mean, he says that, Bill Gates guy, when he was talking in his politics video, it's just, that sort of came up. Nobody listens to what anybody says. So, he was talking about how you have to, slap people around to get them to pay attention. So he was defending being kind of rude to people. And he's not very rude compared to me. So, I mean, obviously I'm rude just because I just don't have patience. So why the orbit's not just crashes? What the hell is that sentence? So why the orbit's not just crashes? Do they just keep missing? Keep missing what? So why the orbit's not just crashes? What does that even mean? How does Look, you fucker. And you're being a fucker. I'm changing nothing except you believe it's pulling in, and I'm saying it's pushing in. It doesn't change anything physically. The force is exactly the same amount of force. Orbits stay the same. Everything stays the same. Nothing changes. You're just saying whether the water's going down a drain or whether the water is being pushed in from the side. Can you understand that? You're saying it's sucked like a vacuum cleaner. I'm saying it's pushing it in and it's getting forced down the drain. You're saying it's being pumped down the drain. Do you get it? It's exactly the same whirlpool, shithead. Whether I push the water down the hole or whether I pull the water down the hole doesn't fucking change the mechanics at all. I mean, if you're going to do inane questions and statements, you should at least be able to type them in something reasonable. So why the orbit's not just crashes? What? How the fuck can that be a sentence? Do they just keep missing? I mean, again, what? Does what miss? Fuck. Damn. I mean, I guess he wrote it through a translating software or something, but whatever. What is the whole, the center of the galaxy? So how is that on the subject at all? I mean, galaxies are a whole different kind of subject. Remember, the obvious thing galaxies aren't is spherical. So they're breaking one of the fundamental rules of gravity, which is gravity likes to make round things. So clearly, what galaxies are doing is a little bit fucked up. And, you know, them being flat. And I would argue that galaxies are really the pressure unwinding. Galaxies are things falling apart, not things moving together. So they're not getting pushed together. They're flying apart. They're pressure that's exploding, so to speak. Pushing, the pressure is being released. And I would also argue, to answer your question, that again really isn't on the subject. I can't tell you exactly what's inside of galaxies, but what I will tell you is a giant sun isn't in there. Okay, there's not some super massive object that's controlling the galaxy. The galaxy has a lot of mass in the arms. The arms are the mass of the galaxy. And the stuff in the center is, obviously there's a lot of stuff in the center because it's brighter and lighter because there's more suns in there. But the truth is, it has every appearance that every galaxy starts off with something that breaks into two, becomes a binary system. That's what's creating the arms, is the binary part. And there's two things, and they're just orbiting around each other. And the whole galaxy is just a reflection of two things orbiting around. The arms are binary if you look at them. Just take two arms that are across from each other and look at them, and you'll just see it's kind of a binary system. The two arms are going around each other. But again, this really isn't the subject. Oh, fuck. It's a simple argument. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's just really isn't that complicated. You think pull is the simple elemental function. Somehow the simplest thing the universe could create is I'm going to pull something. When I think it's just so fucking obvious that the simplest thing the universe can create is I'm going to go the speed of light and I'm probably going to hit something eventually. and when I hit it, it's going to move it. Yeah, that's the simplest force. Bumper cars is the simplest amusement you can make. You know, if you had to make an amusement park, oh yeah, you can't get easier. Bumper cars, yeah. That's the simple mechanism. But there will be no concession to the obvious logic of it. All right, 1 minute warning. So, no further comment. All right, I'm just trying to get a mental picture. Well, I'm just saying it's, yeah, it's been talked about before. I mean, I can't think of there. Unfortunately, it's a little hard. It's not even that hard. But I mean, somebody should have done it by now. But the fact is, you could make a little box. Make a box a yard by a yard, and you could fill it with BBs. Just little round metal balls, and then you could excite that box by jiggling it. And the truth is, if you put two checkers, two objects inside that box of banging around BBs, the two objects will move right into each other. It'll happen every time, no matter where you put the two checkers. The two big objects inside the active little BB box will just move right into each other every time. So what's hard to understand? What's hard to imagine? Okay, so a mental picture of straight lines making circles or whirls. Where does it have to? Where do you need? Why do I need a circle or a whirl to create gravity? Why? What circles do I have to make? What whirls do I have to make? Whatever. The Earth has velocity. Okay, so you can say, oh, look, it's circling the sun. Its velocity came from outside of the solar system. The Earth brought that velocity with it. Okay, it introduced the whirl. Gravity didn't make it whirl. It came already pre-whirled, so to speak, with the energy to get caught in a whirl. But there's nothing stopping that from happening. If I had the BB box and I'm shaking it, and I could make a checker that did have velocity and one that didn't, then the same thing would happen. Is the one that didn't have velocity very well, the one that did could very well get stuck orbiting it. More likely that the object would just crash into it at a faster rate. And that's what would happen in our solar system. If you tried to introduce something to our solar system from the external to our solar system, it would crash into the sun or fly out of the solar system. Those are the only two options, unless it hits something. So if it doesn't hit the moon, or doesn't hit the Earth, or doesn't hit Mercury, or doesn't hit Pluto, or doesn't hit something, it'll crash into the sun or fly out of the solar system again. It can't get in an orbit unless it hits something. So swirls and whirls are emergent properties of the elemental function. But the elemental function doesn't need to do any of it, doesn't need to swirl or whirl to create the capacity for circles to be created, and circles that are degrading, that is, they're going to terminate in the sun eventually, are circles that are expanding, which means they're going to escape eventually. I mean, an orbit is just something essentially heading for the other object. It just can't get to it because it has a velocity that's perpendicular to the direction it's trying to go. So it's trying to go two different ways, this way and this way, and the two ways are in conflict, so it ends up going this way. I mean, it's not that complicated. And such. All right, 1 minute warning again. Just do the 1 minute warning. It'll be fun. Trust me. Or not. All right. Oh, somebody made it. What do you think about? Oh, I can't believe it. Fuck you. What do you think about Alex Jones being banned from YouTube? He should be banned from planet Earth. The guy's an asshole. Ugh. I don't know what he was banned for, so I have no idea what to say. I mean, I don't think anybody should be banned from YouTube who's doing anything short of, I don't know, instructing people on how to be terrorists. I don't know. So was Alex Jones doing that? Was Alex Jones showing people how to make bombs or something? I mean, there's some stuff, if I owned a company, I wouldn't want to really be responsible for, in the sense of they incite violence or something else. But yes, I wouldn't ban Alex Jones. I wouldn't monetize him either, though. So that would be an interesting question, what exactly he was banned for, and whether it was just denied monetization or whether it was denied the ability to make videos. It's all questions one could ask. But anyway, it really isn't. This board is just. I don't know why you show up here and think people should have opinions on it. It's just rude to the purpose of this fucking channel. I mean, I'm trying to get here, find somebody who wants to actually discuss physics and discuss how, you've all been duped for 100 years by silly, frickin' fatalistic, religious, made-up crap theory, and kind of a significant mistake by human civilization to fall for these silly stories, these unicorn theories. Kind of big news in a way. And you're asking me crap about little petty politics. Thanks. I'll try the experiment. The image of many BBs in a box is one I can wrap my mind around. Yes, it's not that hard to imagine. Just like I said, just if you thought of the little BBs as rays of light coming from all directions, it gets even easier just to see the shadows. I mean, that's all you're looking for is the shadows of the pressure. You can just obviously kind of know there's got to be shadows cast everywhere the thing goes. There's a shadow. No matter where I go, I'd be casting a shadow in a direction. Like every direction. Isn't that sort of interesting? Like every direction would have a shadow I'm casting. So no matter where you put something, I'll shadow it from one direction. I can't miss. I never got the balls on this sheet because we are in 3D. Again, I know, but if the effect was a bowl, then that would have a consequence in 3D. The whole point is the 2D illustration is perfectly satisfactory because it doesn't have any, there's nothing limiting. There's nothing closed to just 2D. So it expands to 3D without any complication at all, where a bowl doesn't. You could just do the experiment in 2 dimensions. That should be good enough. But as I'm just pointing out, the 2D illustration is complete enough. There's nothing, you don't need any further, you don't need a more complete picture because that picture is exactly the same as the 3rd dimensional image. It's going to be just that image rotated. It's not going to change anything at all. Even if you thought about seeing somebody, so let's say you don't see the light, but you know the light is being shining on something, right? So you're seeing my image. So you know that the light's reflecting off of me. So it didn't go through me, it reflected off of me. And you know if there was lights all around me, that there's light reflecting off of me at every angle and every side and from every direction, right? Let's see, what's another way of saying this? The only problem with that analogy is it doesn't make you appreciate that more of the light I'm absorbing than I'm reflecting. So I'm absorbing more light than reflecting. So, you know, it's the absorption that gives me movement. All right. But anyway, yes, the BB thing is safer in that sense. But yeah, you would think that somebody would have an illustration of that somewhere. It's such a, it's, you know, at least an animation of mock gravity. But anyway, yeah, I have to think of some. I mean, I've attempted illustrating it before, but this I should animate it. But I frankly just don't see why it's an issue. You know, I mean, the idea of the shadows being cast is just so obvious that obviously, if I'm shooting arrows, you'd understand that the arrows sticking on this side of this thing means they didn't hit this thing. Just kind of so obvious. And obviously, the arrows going this way hit this thing. That means they can't hit this thing. I mean, if there's somebody standing in front of me and they're blocking the light can't hit me. And if I'm getting hit by more light from behind than I am in front of me, then I'm going to get pushed forward. Well, CERN is, yeah, I mean, well, I obviously don't, you know, I don't think all accelerators are a waste of money, but I think that stupid gigantic thing, the Hadron Collider thing, I think that was a waste of money. Because obviously they've gained nothing out of it. They haven't improved any technology with it whatsoever. They're not making better nuclear power plants because of it. I mean, they've learned nothing from building it. So, yeah, I'd pretty much say that was a white elephant or whatever, big pile of nothing. And the stuff they're finding is so abstract and meaningless. You know, the Higgs boson bullshit thing, the God particle that doesn't do anything all that interesting. You know, I mean, frankly, who could care? You know, they're just telling you what color hat the Holy Ghost is wearing. Isn't it sort of, it's like, is Jesus wearing briefs or boxer shorts? You know, do you care? I don't care. So I can certainly imagine much better ways to spend the money. Better science to be doing. I mean, it's sort of a loaded question when you really ask it, because, you know, it really just depends on whether you think they're on the right track. If you think their standard model is anywhere close to reality, and I don't. So, you know, obviously it's going to be a waste of money because they're just wandering around in a cat in the hat book or something. They've, you know, bored a hole into a comic strip, and now they're just wandering around in the comic strip. Search. No, another 1 minute warning. So, anyone who, you know, just in case there's somebody new here, if you're at all literate in physics and think you can make it all any kind of arguments to defeat me or debunk or fact check or whatever, you know, you are welcome to engage me in a more personal manner, voice or video in the room, and I'll send you a link. So just email ds@draftphysics.com. Link below. I really would like to talk physics, but you know, I can't do all the talking. I really can. I probably just should I'll do both parts stuff again, just change my voice, make it a little more interesting, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Sean Carroll interview was just so much, it was not about physics. So, you know, 90% of it was other subjects, you know, biotechnology and stuff, and global warming and Trump and all kinds of crap like that. And clearly, I'd argue that Sean Carroll is just a traditionalist. You know, it's just you know, just has these traditional notions that human beings are doing something important. Even though, you know, logically, and you can dissect a human being and figure out what we are. We're just a version of crocodile, okay, that does some mathematics and likes to watch chick films now and then, and likes a good car crash and blah blah blah. You know, I mean, we're not. It's, you know, it's just all psychology, And the psychology is all rubbish. It's just all addictions, culturally confined and inspired addiction. Oh, I mean, it's all phantasmagorical in the sense that it's all this optimism bias, all this. Let's just pretend we're doing something productive. Let's just pretend we're have free will. Let's just pretend we, it's all just pretend. I mean, he did it overtly on the subject of free will. He was overt in his, oh yeah, well, I could pay attention to the fact that I'm just a freaking meme controlled robot, or I can just imagine I have free will and then everything's all right. I mean, just bullshit. Atomizer is dying. Not smoking very well lately. Not enough vape. Well, these really aren't on the subject. Michio Kaku has lately been saying some even more insanely crazy stuff about physics. Well, it's just a generic statement anyway. But he's a string theorist who thinks he made some kind of contribution to string theory, but I can never find any reference that actually acknowledges his contribution. So I don't think he's made any contribution except to say, I'm a strings theorist. But yeah, I mean, he's got a huge optimism bias problem. I mean, this whole, let's just imagine humans are all nice and love each other and civilized and they'll do everything the right way and we'll have our little, our little whatever sidewalks that move and we'll have all our escalatory things and fun. It's just all a pile of crap. Our flying cars. Seeing the statistics on small planes, Cessnas, those little planes, half of them crash. So it's like they don't go to they don't just get retired. The planes always die through crashing. So it's like they're like 50% of the planes, all the small planes ever made, crashed. Imagine what flying cars would be doing. I don't want to go to Big Think. I was subscribed to it for a while, because in the beginning they had some stuff that was interesting, but now it's just, I don't know what it is. It's just some sort of bizarrely phantasmagorical pile of crap. Go to Big Think, he said. So yes, well, the fact that Michio Kaku would be kissing Elon Musk's ass is no big surprise. I'm sure all the physicists do, because they all want some money. So anyway, but obviously he's not accomplishing any energy dreams. Elon Musk is using energy. He's not making energy. Electric cars consume energy. They don't make energy. It's just so stupid. I mean, the real world miles per gallon is not very good when you think about the transmission cost of electricity and plus the cost of the batteries. It's not a very green strategy. Fried the coil. Yeah, that's what you get for turning it up to 10 volts there, Derry. You thought you were going to teach it a lesson, huh? Well, it showed you, sucker. It's weird. Usually only burns up one coil. I fried them both at once. Anyway. If any other than knuckleheads have anything to say? Oh, God, it is so hot in here. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, my fan is just too noisy. I can't keep it on. But whatever. All right, to them, it's a simulation universe. Well, whatever. I don't think that's true. So I don't know who the them is. I don't think there's too many people that take any of that crap very seriously. Really doesn't matter, quite obviously. I mean, if the simulation has real feelings in it, if you've accurately simulated the feelings, then what's the difference? The value still exists then. I don't know how you exactly create fake feelings. So pretty hard to make a feeling simulation. Well, it's not hard, it's impossible. It's enough air, I think. Grip. So, anything else? Last chance and such. Ooh, that was good. Anyway, Mom. In the recent, oh shit, just keep doing it, said that Elon Musk is accomplishing the goal. I don't understand. You just said the same damn thing twice. I don't know. People just astound me by doing bizarrely weird, stupid things. Found a few vids on vibrating sand. I'll look through them, see if any add other medium. Yeah, well, sand is just sort of. I mean, sand will work, but obviously it's bounces off of itself so much, that I don't know if you get a jiggle to go all the way through sand without it just making this. It's like sand blasting the sand. The sand just turns into smaller pieces of sand. So I don't think that works. I'm surprised it's got fried. Let's see, let me test it with my other thing here. Ugh. I get tangled in there. These damn wires. Hundreds of wires everywhere. He's dead. Dead. Okay. Yeah, learned something. Let's see if there are any other medium about energy. I mean, it seems to make patterns. Again, so what does that have to do with anything? You can put sand on top of a speaker and it'll make patterns. It doesn't mean anything. Not really relevant to the conversation, I don't think. Gravity is obviously not a pattern. Gravity is obviously a consistent pressure from all directions. That's why everything goes circular. Things are round because the pressure is even. Yeah, I'm just totally uninterested in patterns. It's, pattern in, pattern out. That's how patterns work. It's nothing terribly fascinating about that kind of stuff, in my opinion. So not sand, use BBs. And just shake it. Yeah, well, BBs lose a lot less energy than sand does. Okay, I mean, sand just, the energy is a lot more entropy, or whatever you want to call it. The energy gets spread into all the sand, and so you can't keep it energized. You can't make it as frictionless. BBs are a lot more frictionless, so they maintain their energy better. Like I said, I haven't tried it with sand, so I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying it doesn't seem like sand would be the best medium because it would also be slow. It's hard to get any speed, get the sand particles moving with any kind of momentum. I'm just saying I don't really see why it has to be illustrated. I just don't. I mean, whatever. The concept is so easy to imagine. I just don't know why you need to actually see it. And such. I guess we could have a better visual here. What's this Wikipedia page? Closure phase. I never clicked on any closure phase. Let's see. The closure phase is an observable quantity in imaging, astronomical interferometry, which allows the use of interferometry with very long baselines. It forms the basis of the self-calibration approach to interferometric imaging. What a pile of crap. The observable, which is usually used in most closure phase observations, is actually a complex quantity called the triple product. Oh, this just sounds like such horse shit. The closure phase is the phase of the complex quantity, but the phase, closure phase, is still more commonly used than more accurate phrase, triple product. Oh, man. So Roger Johansen Jensen developed this novel technique for obtaining information about visibility phases in an interferometer when delay errors are present. Although his initial laboratory measurements of closure phase have been done at optical wavelengths, he foresaw greater potential for this technique in radio interferometry. Oh, what a pile of crap. So this is the crap their physics is based on, phase shift between different radio telescopes. Yeah, good luck with that shit. Bunch of crap. Crap. Sounds like crap to me. All right, 1 minute warning again. What's this thing? Gravitational lenses. I really did that shit. That junk website. Junk. Get rid of that. Don't need that wasting space. Graph Science. Oh, it's my website. That's a good spot. Very sensible place, full of sensible data. All right, 30-second warning. Ooh, that's nice. New atomizer, very nice. Yeah. But they cost 40 cents. Jeez. It only lasts 2 weeks. Gotta spend 40 cents every 2 weeks. Outrageous. Anyway, so till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. And yeah, that would do it. Your last chance has expired. So till next time.